Welcome back to Trading Lessons from Legends. Today I want to take you into the life of a man whose brilliance once bent markets and whose downfall still echoes through every trading room on earth. His name was Jesse Livermore. I tell this not to glorify him, but so that you and I will not repeat what destroyed him. I have read his words, studied his trades, and followed the paper trail of his triumphs and collapses across decades. But I also learned to listen for the quiet things, the pauses in his sentences, the gaps between the headlines, the silence that money cannot fill. If you have ever believed that success will save you, if you have ever felt the market whisper your name, then this story is a mirror. Look closely. The first thing you might see is yourself. He began as a boy with chalk-stained fingers in a Boston bucket shop, a thin shadow moving quickly beneath a blackboard of numbers. Men twice his age shouted, cursed, and begged the tape to change its mind. He stood beside them and noticed something they could not. That price was not noise but language. He copied the phrases of that language into a notebook only he touched. Patterns emerged like constellations. He did not predict. He recognized. He did not hope. He observed. That difference would make him a legend, and later it would cost him everything. By 16, he placed his first trade and tripled his weekly wage. By 20, he was the boy plunger, known in every bucket shop from Boston to New York. He dressed like a gentleman and moved like a storm. The clerks tried to ban him because he kept winning. When you win often enough, the room narrows around you. You stop hearing the warnings. You begin to mistake recognition for destiny. Lesson 1. The illusion of control is born the moment skill feels like fate. I say this carefully, as someone who has seen precision become poison. Livermore believed he had found a key to a locked door. But markets are not doors, and they do not stay locked or open for long. They are weather. They are ocean. They are a crowd looking for a story to believe, a villain to hate, a hero to follow. And on certain days he played all three parts at once. When he arrived in New York, the exchange felt like a cathedral. Marble floors, voices that carried, the hum of telephones like restless bees. He took a small stake and let his convictions speak for him. He followed his rules. Sit tight when right, cut quickly when wrong, never argue with the tape. The numbers answered him like a choir that knew every note he wanted to hear. Money came fast. Influence came faster. And then 1907 arrived. Panic is the purest teacher the market has. Men who spoke like kings in the morning whispered like beggars by noon. Credit froze. Crowds formed. And the city learned how loud silence can be when no one is willing to buy. While the world stumbled, he went short. It was not cruelty, it was clarity. He saw the fear before others did, and wagered that fear would spread. He was right. He made millions in weeks, a fortune that would stagger the imagination in any era. Success entered his life like a warm drug. Reporters chased him. Rivals flattered him. The public needed a story about a man who could read chaos and turn it into order, and he gave it to them. They called him the Great Bear of Wall Street. He looked in the mirror and saw a myth looking back. That is how the second wound begins. Lesson 2. Victory consumes judgment before it consumes capital. You will not feel the knife when it enters. You will only notice that you nod more and question less. Applause is a fog. He rose from chauffeur to townhouse to yachts and suites. He told himself he had earned it all by being right when others were wrong. It was true enough to be dangerous. I do not blame him. Men crave certainty because uncertainty is the tax we pay for being alive. When certainty arrives wrapped in money, it feels like grace. He began to trade not only with his rules but also with his name. He was not simply placing positions. He was defending a legend. The market obliged him with fresh confirmations. Each gain added a plank to a bridge that would later end in midair. He expanded into commodities. He speculated in rails and cotton and wheat. jolting entire industries by the weight of his positions. He opened offices that looked like sanctuaries of confidence, mahogany desks, rows of phones, a wall of tickers murmuring like mechanical rain. The rooms smelled of ink, tobacco, and ambition. I have walked through spaces like this, long after the men who built them were gone. The air still carries the echo of decisions that no one can undo. Lesson 3. Overconfidence wears the mask of scale. When vision grows, we call it genius. When position size grows with it, we call it conviction. But size is not truth. It is exposure. He borrowed more, because borrowing felt like belief made visible. He told himself that concentration was efficiency, and leverage was merely the volume knob on skill. That is how brilliant men turn prudence into an insult. At first, leverage made him larger than life. Then it began to make his mistakes larger than they needed to be. A rumor reversed a trend. An assumption aged overnight. He held on a little too long, added a little too often, waited a little too late. The tape, which had once read like a book written for him, began to feel like a language that had learned to lie. He woke earlier to read it again. He slept later trying to explain it. He told himself a familiar story, one more correct call, and the universe would be balanced again. He recovered, of course. He always recovered. That was part of the curse. When you fall and rise and fall and rise, you begin to believe the rising is proof that fate is on your side. But cycles do not bless, they warn. Each loop leaves a scar invisible to the balance sheet. Trust erodes, patience thins, and in the quiet moments, a question forms that cannot be answered by price. What if my gift is just a habit that the world has decided, for now, to reward? I have seen that question hollow out great men. It came for him slowly. He could not enjoy the mansions he bought. Parties bored him because he could not hear applause over the sound of the tape in his head. He tried to rest and felt guilty for resting. He tried to stop trading and felt like he had stopped breathing. The market was not his work anymore, it was his pulse. He married well, then badly, then expensively. He loved his sons, and they loved him in the way children love the sun, grateful for light, overwhelmed by heat. He promised his wife he would be careful, that he would not tempt the gods of chance again. He meant it when he said it. But markets speak, in the tense that breaks promises. Now, there are moments in a trader's life when the room goes quiet and even victory sounds like memory. He reached such a moment and did not know what to do with it. The climb had taught him to keep climbing. The view taught him nothing. He stood at a window above Manhattan at dusk. The city glittered like a field of coins, each one reflecting a stranger's name. He realized that he did not know his own name except as others spoke it. He whispered it once, to see if it still fit. It did not. Endings rarely announce themselves. They arrived disguised as another beginning. He told himself he would scale down, slow down, thin out the positions, return to the rules that saved him when he was young. He wrote those rules down. He framed them. He quoted them. He ignored them. You may think I am harsh. I am not. I have read enough diaries, interviewed enough men who once believed they could command fate to know the pattern. You will call it discipline until it deserts you. You will call it intuition until it contradicts you. You will call it experience until the market changes the questions faster than you can rewrite the answers. Then you must either adapt or tell yourself a story about why you are right and time is wrong. He chose the story. Most of us do, at least once. He was not a villain. He was a mirror. He showed us how a gift becomes a verdict when the giver will not stop asking for proof. After 1907, he stepped into rooms that bent around him. He was treated like weather. Bankers waited for his mood the way farmers wait for rain. It is not easy to refuse the world when it offers to make you enormous. The cost of being enormous is that your mistakes are enormous too. So this is where I leave you at the end of the first act. Not with a crash, but with a pressure that only the successful can feel, the pressure to keep earning the right to be yourself. Livermore had the mind, the rules, the record, and the myth. He lacked one thing: peace. The absence of peace is not neutral. It is gravity. It pulls you from height toward a place you swear you will never visit again. And then you arrive and call it temporary. Remember these 3 sentences because they are the spine of what comes next. The illusion of control begins when skill feels like fate. Victory consumes judgment before it consumes capital. Overconfidence wears the mask of scale. If those lines feel uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is cheaper now than it will be later. In our next steps together, we will walk into the years when greed becomes identity and success becomes a locked room without a door. But before we go there, let me leave you with the most honest thing I can say about the markets and the men who love them. The market will show you who you are, and it will keep showing you until you either learn or break. Jesse Livermore learned everything the market could teach about price. What he could not learn in time was how to live with himself when the price stopped answering back. By 1919, Jesse Livermore had everything a man could want and nothing he knew how to keep. He was no longer the boy with chalk dust on his sleeves, but a name spoken in rooms of marble and money. He could move a stock with a whisper. He had power, fame, and the illusion that he understood them. But in truth, he was only learning how lonely victory can be. Lesson 4: Greed as identity. Greed is never only about money. It is about needing to prove that you still matter. After his recovery from earlier losses, Livermore promised himself he would slow down. He told his wife he would spend more time at home, see his children, breathe. But men who are built from storm cannot live in stillness. The tickers clicking had become his heartbeat. He would sit alone at his desk long after midnight, watching the numbers drift across the tape as if they were stars that could guide him back to himself. Every headline that called him the Great Bear of Wall Street fed something dark and hungry inside him. He needed the world to keep watching, because without its gaze he felt invisible. He wasn't trading for profit anymore. He was trading for permission to exist. Each win felt like oxygen, each loss like suffocation. The market was his mirror, and he was trapped inside its reflection. He once told a friend, "I don't really care what the stock does, I just want to be right." That sentence was not arrogance. It was confession, because beneath every calculation was fear, the fear of becoming ordinary again. Lesson 5: Isolation on the summit. Success builds walls that money cannot tear down. The richer he became, the smaller his world grew. He stopped trusting advisors, dismissed colleagues, and cut off friends who told him to rest. His wife said he was there but not present, a ghost, walking through his own house. He spoke of markets the way others spoke of faith and punishment. He believed he could read the soul of the crowd, but could no longer read the faces at his table. Isolation feels safe because it silences doubt, but without doubt there is no truth. He created a world where he was always right, and that is the most dangerous place for any trader to live. When his positions turned against him, no one dared to warn him, and even if they had, he would not have listened. In 1925, the market sang again. America was drunk on prosperity radios, automobiles, steel, dreams. He joined the chorus, buying with both hands, borrowing as if debt were just another form of faith. And when the music stopped, he was still dancing. Tens of millions vanished in weeks. The loss did not break him. It hollowed him. At home, the silence was heavier than any margin call. His wife looked at him and did not see a husband. She saw a haunted instrument still listening for the next note. He could have stopped. He did not know how, because to stop was to admit that he was no longer the man the world believed in. Lesson 6: The cycle of boom and bust. He called it the game. Build, collapse, repent, rise. Each cycle familiar, each return emptier than the last. He told himself he was mastering the pattern, but in truth, the pattern was mastering him. The market is a mirror that forgives nothing and forgets nothing. It will teach you the same lesson until you stop calling it luck. In 1929, he saw the signs again, credit swelling, crowds cheering, faith outpacing math. He went short while the world celebrated, and when the crash came, he earned the largest fortune of his life, more than $100 million. The papers called him a prophet, but in his office, he stood by the window watching men run through the streets and said quietly, "There is nothing to be happy about when the world is losing its money." He was right. The worst tragedy is to win and feel nothing. He had conquered the market and lost the reason to care. After the crash, he withdrew from public life. He bought a mansion so large that its echo could hide his thoughts. He wrote a book about discipline and broke every rule in it. He was a prophet preaching to a crowd that no longer existed. The public saw success. I see fatigue. Each comeback was just a rehearsal for collapse. He owned everything except peace. By 1931, his fortune crumbled again, not in explosion, but in erosion. Mistake by mistake, inch by inch, he spent nights alone in front of the mirror, staring at a man who once moved markets and now moved only his own regret. He said, "It's not the losses that hurt. It's knowing you were once a god." Those words haunt me, because beneath every trade, beneath every strategy, lives the same terror that our value will disappear when the numbers stop moving. For Livermore, the numbers were already dying out. He just hadn't heard the silence yet. By 1933, Jesse Livermore was a man made of echoes. His legend still walked through the corridors of Wall Street, but the man himself had grown quiet. He smiled for photographs, signed books for admirers, and told the world that discipline was the key to survival. Yet when the interviews ended, he returned to the same room, closed the same door, and stared at the same ticker that no longer spoke to him. Lesson 7. Failure to adapt. The markets he once mastered had changed. New instruments, new rules, new players. He still believed that experience was armor, but experience can also be rust. He traded the way he always had alone. Instinctively, convinced that his methods were timeless. They weren't. He was fighting ghosts on a battlefield that no longer existed. He ignored the quiet warnings from younger traders, men who used numbers instead of nerves. He dismissed them as amateurs, forgetting that once he had been one too. He told himself he could feel the market's pulse through the tape. But the pulse he felt was his own heartbeat, quick and desperate. The hardest moment in any trader's life is not losing money. It is realizing that the world has moved on without you. He was a man built for storms, now stranded in calm seas, waiting for waves that would never come. Lesson 8. The weight of isolation. Wealth buys silence, and silence becomes a cage. Livermore's fortune rose and fell again in the mid-1930 seconds, but his mind fell faster. He stopped answering letters. He dined alone. His wife traveled without him. He began to keep notebooks filled not with numbers, but with sentences, fragmented thoughts about fear, memory, and time. He wrote that the market no longer punished him, because he no longer cared enough to feel the punishment. That is how despair enters quietly, without announcement, like dusk through an open window. He avoided old colleagues because their voices reminded him of who he used to be. He avoided mirrors because reflection demanded honesty. He walked at night through the city he once ruled, unnoticed, unseen. The streetlights flickered on his face like the candles of a fading chapel. He said to an acquaintance, "It's not money anymore. It's the game." But the game was gone. Only the habit remained. Lesson 9. The shadow within. When the mind turns against itself, no market can save it. The final trade is not on paper, it is in thought. He had spent his entire life trying to control chaos, and now the chaos lived inside him. Depression tightened around him like an invisible margin call. He carried his despair with the same precision he once carried his charts. On the 28th of November 1940, he sat in the cloakroom of a hotel in New York, a small revolver in his hand. In his pocket was a note to his wife. It said, "My life has been a failure. I am tired of fighting. It is better this way." There were no charts, no numbers, no explanations, only the silence he had feared all his life. I don't tell you this for tragedy's sake. I tell you because this is where the legend ends and the lesson begins. He was not destroyed by the market. He was destroyed by his refusal to step away from it. He could read every fluctuation of price, but never learned to read the fluctuations of his own mind. His genius made him rich. His blindness made him history. People still quote him today. There is nothing new in Wall Street. There can't be because speculation is as old as the hills. He was right. The hills haven't changed. Only the climbers do. Each generation brings its own mixture of fear and arrogance. And the mountain welcomes them the same way it welcomed him. If you have listened this far, remember this. No profit will protect you from yourself. The market can teach you timing, patience, discipline, but it cannot teach you peace. That part is your responsibility. When I study Livermore, I don't see failure. I see a warning written in gold and blood. Do not let your talent outrun your humanity. If you win, rest. If you lose, learn. And when you feel invincible, step back before the lesson repeats itself with your name on it. This is Trading Lessons from Legends. Thank you for walking with me through the rise, the glory, and the fall of Jesse Livermore. If his story made you pause, reflect, or breathe differently for a moment, let that be your reward. Subscribe, share, and remember, the market never changes, only you do.